Pry will make a brief opening statement, and then we'll open it up for questions. Just a reminder, if you have a question, raise your hand. We'll get you the wireless microphone.
Appreciate everybody being here. I'm excited about it. You know, it's that time of year. It's what we all kind of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, building up to camp to put the finishing touches on the team that we can be. So I got to start off by thanking President Sands, Whit Babcock, our Board of Visitors for their support. It's been outstanding. We are doing what we need to do to position this program to keep moving forward, get it back to respectability. Football matters at Virginia Tech. That's what I'm just constantly reminded of how important it is here. Our fan base, our community, the university, and I love that. It's how it was when I was here in the 90s, and we're going to get it back. I want to say this, ticket sales are going really strong. Excited about the direction that's headed. We got a great environment, one of the best in college football. I go back to last year and that Wofford kickoff at 11 o'clock, and that place packed. Students filled their section at 10. So there's some tickets left. There's single game tickets, but again, ticket sales are going very strong. Fan Day is set for Sunday. We're excited about that. The guys are excited about that. Chance for us to give back to the community, to mingle and talk and build relationships. I will say the Triumph NIL members will have early access before the general fan base, but we look forward to visiting with everybody. You've heard me say multiple times now, make no mistake about it, NIL is critically important in college sports today, particularly in football. I'm very proud of the Hokie Way and of Triumph, what they've been able to do in that space to keep us competitive. And I'll say it again, I don't want anybody to come to Tech because of NIL possibilities. But I want that and need that to be part of the positive experience for our student athletes. And to this point, it's been that way. Conference realignment, I don't really want to dive into it much. I'm a big believer, big fan of the ACC and what we offer. We had great talks at our conference meetings this year. I also believe in Virginia Tech and how we're represented, how we're seen, and the product that we have here in Blacksburg. So I feel very good about the leadership and the positioning of Virginia Tech in that space. It's my job to put the best college football team out there we can. It's my job and our staff's job to develop the young men within our program. And, that's what we'll continue to do. I think it's important to know that, we're building a program here. And from the ground up, it's something that our players hear me say a lot. They see it in PowerPoint presentations. We're 100 level and working our way up. And that's with everything. Now, we want to build a modern, sustainable program. But it takes time. And we're doing things the right way. We have the support, as I mentioned. We're making progress in the right direction. We are moving the needle. We're doing a good job in our footprint from a recruiting standpoint, which was something that was very important to us on the onset. And then also developing players within our program, on and off the field, developing maturity, developing skill sets, developing an attitude, a mentality that we can win with. We're steady and deliberate in what we do. We have a plan. We have a process that we're sticking to as a staff, as a head coach. I'm a big believer in it. Believe in our process. Nothing happens overnight. Meaningful relationships. Our guys are constantly hearing that. That's on the recruiting front. That's in the community. That's with the university. That's within our program. Very important to what we do. We embrace hard conversations. I'm not afraid of those, and we're teaching our football team to not be afraid of them. That's where most of the good work gets done, and we do that on the day-to-day here. We're a blue-collar group. We believe in a strong work ethic and mental and physical toughness. Very important. Things that we are emphasizing throughout this camp. We want to be relatable to one another. I tell them all the time, you don't have to go home and want to hang out with everybody on the team. But there's nobody else doing what we're doing with this group of people day in and day out, like we're doing it. So there's a brotherhood, there's a connection there that's very strong, that demands a lot of mutual respect, and we have that. Family plays a significant role in what we do. It's talked about all the time. For the players, for the staff, and then the effort and attitude that is given. It's required. It's non-negotiable here in how we want to do things, what our approach is. Most of you heard me talk about our fundamentals. They're now up in our team room. They're in our meeting rooms. They're in our offices. They're in the weight room. Each and every team meeting starts with the 5 fundamentals. I'm going to touch them some way with our football team. Accountability. We don't just talk about it, we live it here. These guys are held accountable in front of their peers on a weekly basis with what they did well, what they didn't do so well. Communication, as I mentioned, hard conversations, we embrace them. Be great listeners. Reciprocate communication. Very important. Not enough adults do it well enough. Creating a high level of competition. You've heard me tell the story. It was too acceptable to lose when we first got here. Individual battles, unit battles, group battles, team battles. It was okay to lose. And that's a culture that we're changing. We have more and more competitive periods, more and more competitive obstacles for our guys that are talked about, that are done in front of the team, competitive challenges that are tallied, kept up with, discussed in here. So it's a competitive environment that we've created. And then the attention to detail. We all know all the little things matter. We're teaching these guys how to listen for them, how to recognize them, and how to operate with them. To do that, our coaches and staff have to work in detail as well. And then lastly, the most important thing to me is our mentality. That we coach that as hard as we coach anything else. That we will play hard and play fast and play tough. That we will sacrifice and invest and be determined. That's who we're going to be. And if we can do those things, it's going to go a long way to be the team we want to be. So I wanted to start there because those things are important to me and how we're doing this. I want to make sure everybody understands that. I'll open it up for questions from there.
Raise your hand if you have questions. Go to David and Mike and Andy.
Brent, you mentioned in Charlotte, it was probably pretty jarring for Tech fans to hear that Vanderbilt may have had more talent, especially at the skill positions, than Virginia Tech did when you first got here. Where do you think you are now after you've surveyed the spring and a couple of sessions of summer camp?
Yeah, just the comparison with Vanderbilt, there's a couple of us on the staff here at Virginia Tech that were in Nashville at that time. And so we've had those discussions. We've had it about Vanderbilt. We've had it about Penn State. We're in a much better place currently. There's more guys that can make more plays at more positions. We're not where we need to be, and we're still young with some of those players I'm talking about. But I feel better about the opportunity to make plays. Feel better about the opportunity to be competitive with the personnel we have than last year at this time. There's more guys that align from a skill set standpoint to be competitive in this league, and there's more guys that align culturally to be competitive in this league.
Mike.
Brent, maybe the last two of the fundamentals there, details and mentality, huge factors when you're in the red zone in terms of executing and toughness. What did you see that was missing in the red zone offensively and defensively last year, and how important is turning that around?
Yeah, I think that goes back to, you put these guys in situations in spring ball, you put them in situations in preseason camp. But I've got to do a better job of having them understand the urgency and the mindset that's necessary to win those situations. So we're talking more about that. We're emphasizing it more. It goes back to the broad-based mentality on our football team. It goes back to me being more involved with our offense, with special teams, and the mentality piece especially. So, the details are critical in everything we do. If you want to be a team that executes well, you got to operate with details. And it goes back for us. I don't know how you're detail-oriented on the field if you're not off the field. So all of that is encompassing of what we're trying to do to be a better red zone team, that we are detailed as individuals, as a unit. We recognize how important it is to have your hands in the right place, your hat in the right place, run the route at the right depth, all those things. And then at the same time, collectively, 11 guys that understand the mission. We're on the 15-yard line. We got to go, 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 man. We can't be denied. 3rd and 3, we got to go. We got to get it. All 11 understand in the moment, in the situation. I'm doing a better job there. The guys are doing a better job so that we can make the most of those tough or critical situations that we're in.
You talked a lot about last year's offense. One of the shortcomings being running the ball. Are you more confident in that group this year, even with a lot of the youth that you have in that offensive line?
Yeah, I think I've seen us run the ball better, spring ball, and thus far in camp than we did last year. I think we're in a better place. Team blocks, getting movement, running our feet, playing together. I really like what Caden Moore has brought to the center position. And then obviously I think a healthy Malachi Thomas. I really saw some things out of him this camp that I haven't seen out of him since I've been here. Some cuts and some acceleration. And then, with the addition of Bayshall and what he brings, the balance, the vision, the explosiveness, good ball skills, both those guys. And Chance Black has continued to build on the spring he had. It's a good group. Got a couple of good young guys. Jeremiah Coney, Traylon. Been excited about what I've seen out of Traylon in this camp. He's a big, good-looking athlete with a great attitude. So, I just think I love what Coach Crook's doing, and the adjustments we made. I think we're in a better place schematically and from a personnel standpoint.
Brent, you brought up on Thursday about how you're structuring this camp, doing 5 mini camps, 3 days on, day off. How did the first go in terms of evaluating? Is that something that you liked when going back and evaluating the 3 days and seeing what you guys can do going into the second one?
Yeah, obviously this is a new approach, but I'm excited about it. We've concluded 1 mini camp, and we've got 2 down out of 3 in this second mini camp. So I think we'll know more, come tomorrow and even the next day on how we felt about it. But so far, so good. The first one was challenging because, you're only 2 of the 3 days you're out there in just spiders and helmets. So you're limited to what you can do. But I like the model right now. The players seem to like it. The staff seems to like it. You go all in for 3 days, and then we're going to come off the field physically and just meet and improve and watch film. So, we'll see. We need a few more days to really have a good sense if it's what we want it to be.
Let's go, Steve, in the back of the room to Lane.
Brent, with your personal workday changes and everything that you've made, second season being more head coach, like what's how's your workday changed now going through?
Yeah, the biggest thing is I'm not in that defensive room near as much. I'm at my desk or doing things with Mike Hazel or Danny White, or it's just more attention on head coaching matters, thinking a little bit more about our process and the things we're doing, and spending more time talking with our players, in our special teams, offensive guys, defensive guys, just so it's been good.
Is the relationship opportunities to build, is that the biggest thing that you've noticed, or are there some other little parts that you're like, I just couldn't do this last year because I was...
I spend more time on the offensive field than I did last year, talking with those guys, understanding how they're being coached, what they're being coached. just being able to be more involved. I think they appreciate it. I know I do. I don't know if the coaches do, but so just where your time is spent, it's great to be around, be in all the special team meetings and be involved with the offense more and with each area in our program, with recruiting, with operations, with creative, just more attention and more time spent on the things that come across my desk.
Back of the room, Delaney.
Coach, you've traveled around the state quite a bit already, trying to mend some of those outside the program relationships. What's the number one thing that you heard from people that have followed this program for a long time that they wanted to see again? And in terms of recruiting, like you mentioned, what kind of an asset has Fontel Mines been?
Yeah, obviously, the thing I probably hear the most is they're just so glad to see us back invested in the Commonwealth. That's the biggest feedback I get. They're excited that we're back recruiting the state. We're invested in it. We're not going to win all the battles. I'd like to win more than we lose, and we're working that direction. But we're putting the time in, and I think what's rewarding is people recognize that. Coaches, lettermen, the community, the fan base, they recognize that we're putting the time in the state of Virginia.
Let's go front row, David, then we'll go middle of the room to Joe. I'm sorry, Dave, got me.
Brent, at the beginning of last year, during fall camp, Kelly Lawson was a bit banged up, and we started to really see him flourish as the year went on. What have you seen from him over the summer, now through the first couple of days of fall camp? What do you really like about how he's kind of taken hold of that spot at will?
Yeah, Kelly's done a tremendous job. Again, it goes back to resources, the support he has from Coach Marv, Coach Adibi, Coach Galt, the strength staff. He's put weight on, his body's changing. He looks more like a big league linebacker now. He's probably still a cycle away from reaching his potential with his frame and his strength and explosiveness, but really like where he's at. He's healthy right now, and he's playing well. He's a lot more comfortable at the position. And we had a drill out there yesterday that involved a lot of pursuit, perimeter plays, and when you got a guy that's 6'6" and runs like he does, you can't help but notice when he fires across the field, the ground he eats up. He closes the distance on plays as well as anybody I've coached.
Middle of the room to Joey.
What position group has impressed you the most coming into this season, and which one has really improved or caught your eye coming into this season?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to say, just from a personnel standpoint, the wide receiver room. There's several groups that I'm happy with the progress. Again, we're not where we need to be, but there's been some good improvement that's identifiable, and whether it's personnel, whether it's technique or a combination of both. But the wide receiver room, just from a personnel standpoint, it's the development of a couple guys. I'm super excited about the high school class we brought in. And then obviously, the three older guys are certainly impactful in what we're doing. So that room as a whole has just changed the most.
Tim Thomas, and we'll go David and Mike.
Brent, what have you seen now you're basically almost 2 mini camps through in that Mike linebacker competition? And with the importance of that for running the defense on the field, how important is it to kind of have someone in place, and or how soon do you want to have someone in place for that job?
Yeah, we're not going to rush anything as far as, I love the competition. I love to see things play out. I always hope that it plays out to where the decision is a pretty obvious one. It doesn't always work out that way, but it's kind of time will tell. But we've got great candidates there. Coach Marv's done a terrific job of rolling some guys through that spot to make sure that we're giving everybody an opportunity. It is a unique spot. The ability to lead and align everybody and make the calls and then get yourself lined up and ready to read your keys and play fast, it's tough. But right now, Jaden Keller, And, the McDonald's, we call him Twin. I'm not sure which one's which sometimes, but, and then, Alan Tisdale has rolled into that spot some. There's three guys right now that are standing out there. And that's not to say that some other guys haven't caught our interest. One guy that, just a young guy that just shows up every day is George Balance. He's got real good instincts. But the front runners would be Keller and McDonald right now. But Allen is just an experienced guy that things come to him pretty easy in there.
David Taylor and Mike.
I will say this about the mic. I'd love to have a guy that, he could say the wrong thing and the other 10 guys will do it without question. I don't know if we'll get to that point to start the season, but I do know this: we got a strong group at will as well that can help that and can echo calls and help communicate and reinforce. And we got a veteran boundary safety where a lot of calls happen as well. They all kind of work together. So I think collectively we can be where we need to be. If it's not, got big shoes to fill from that standpoint with Dax and what he was able to do.
Brent, in your mind, what are the most tangible benefits to the support that you mentioned Witt and Dr. Sands earlier. In your mind, what have been the most essential additions, either staff-wise or infrastructure-wise, budget-wise?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's been very positive in a lot of areas. Number one, Witt and I meet weekly, and we have hard conversations. Issues within the program, directions, things we need to do, concerns. I love that we do that and that he's committed to that. I don't think that's happening everywhere. But, to do things at this level, the level that's necessary to compete for a championship. I had that experience, the good fortune for 8 years to recognize what that looks like and what's necessary. And so there's been great listeners, and there's a good plan for where we need to go. We're not there yet, but for instance, adding a full-time sports science person, that wasn't in place when we got hired. And the commitment was there to do that. And right now we're getting some invaluable feedback. Part of our 5 3-day mini camps is from the data that's collected from our sports science department. So creating the new staffing that was necessary to recruit or operate at this level to get the most out of our players in their development, in their practice habits, to get the most out of our recruiting efforts, it just took more manpower. And Witt, Dr. Sands, everybody was on board with that and recognized that. So the manpower has been very important. Budgetary resources have been very important. We just can't continue to do things. When I say a modern football program, that's one that can compete for championships, that has the necessary things in place. And just like I say with everything else, we don't have to match Ohio State's budget. We don't have to match Penn State's budget. But we got to be competitive enough. There can't be such a shortcoming that it's impactful from a negative standpoint. And so there's a big commitment to making sure we're doing things the right way, the necessary way for us to compete at this level.
Last one in the room for Mike, and then we'll go to them.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you about the development and the outlook for 2 Richmond guys, Keyshawn at defensive end, and then Jalen, who I know moved from receiver to defensive back. What have you seen from both of those guys, and what is the outlook?
Yeah, I love both those guys. I'm glad you bring them up. They're 2 of our hardest workers. Keyshawn probably has, outside of Kelly Lawson, maybe the best motor on the team. He knows one speed and one speed only. He's 100 miles an hour to a point where I've had to get on him. It's a walkthrough, and he's going full speed. He's going to factor in. He's into 2 deep. He's got a chance to work into a starting spot. He's determined. He's learning the position. Coach Price has done a really good job with him. I like what he's about right now. He's starting to mature. Last year he was very silly and he'd go 3 steps forward, and he'd have a bad day or two. So the consistency's paying off for him. Jalen Jones, the commitment to move over was a tough one for him. A couple of conversations with him and his father, and I think it's working out very well. The defensive staff is pleased with Jalen. He's a solid guy in the 2 deep right now, working towards a guy that we feel like can be in a healthy rotation that we can win with. He makes plays. You know, there's not a day that goes by that he doesn't make a play or that you don't notice Jalen.
Let's go out to Zoom for a couple.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to ask questions. Before asking your question, please share your name and media outlet. We could please start with Tim.
Hey, Brent, Tim Sullivan from Hokie Haven. You mentioned the wide receiver room generally and how much it's improved. I was kind of curious about specifically the 3 incoming guys that you got from the transfer portal. Obviously, you've only had a few days on the field so far, but what have Ali, Daquan, and Jalen shown to you so far?
Yeah, I think just a couple of key words about each one. I think Ali, his leadership and work ethic has been outstanding. I think for Jalen, his playmaking ability, each and every day, he's catching everybody's attention. He's hard to cover. And then for Quan, a guy that big with that kind of size, I mean, he's like an avatar out there running really good routes. He's getting better and better in that area, and his ball skills are really good. He's got a giant catch radius. So all 3 of them are bringing something, important traits, but something different to our program.
Any final questions on Zoom? Okay, Travis.
All right, we got time for just a couple more here in the room. We'll go David and then Anthony.
What has Antoine Powell Ryland been so far? I know you didn't have him in the spring. Has it been what you expected from him so far? And what have you liked about how he's challenged everybody else and raised the level in that DE room?
Yeah, I'll say this. He's very eager, very coachable, which I love. All these transfer guys have been. But he had a play. The first day we had shoulder pads on, we did one-on-one pass rush. And we just hadn't seen a rep like that since we've been here. You know, just the takeoff, the movement, the pad level. I mean, it was one of those whiff shot sack fumbles, you know, and so it brought everybody to their feet. And it was like, okay, we get it. You know, this is what it needs to look like. And to your point, he's elevated the other guys in the room, you know, through plays like that. You know, this is what and who we need to be. You know, everybody in that D-line room has been committed the entire offseason to working towards being a better pass rushing group, including Coach Price. You know, he spent some time professionally developed, went to see some different people. We brought, you know, some martial arts expert in 2 different times just to, you know, we're doing everything we can to help us win more one-on-one battles. But clips like that on some God-given natural ability and quickness and bend, and that helps too.
Anthony, and we'll finish up with John.
Brent, it may seem obvious, but how important is it to come out and play well in that first game against Old Dominion? And do you get a sense that there's extra motivation from the guys given what happened last year in Norfolk?
You know, I hope they're not thinking too far down the road like that. I'm not saying some of them aren't. It's talked about enough. We try and keep them focused on what we got to do in this camp. I'm not talking about that ball game with them. I'm not thinking about it. I know there's some guys down the hallway that are breaking film down and developing some ideas and thoughts, but, you know, I just truly believe to give us the best chance, man, we got to pour it in each and every day to this camp. And they're doing that right now.
Hey, Coach. This year, the one on the defensive side of the ball, the one roster that's looking pretty young is the cornerback slot. Where do you think things are going there? It's you got 2 we know starters because they did last year, but everybody else is pretty young and not really experienced. How you feel it's going?
Yeah, I think it's great because we got two vets that, have both been freshman All-Americans, had good campaigns in their own right. But I think one guy that does make us feel much better is Derek Canteen. He's a very, very solid contributor at corner right now, as well as at safety. If you were out there the other day, he's playing both. But he's a veteran guy, great technician, great worker, good instincts. Another guy that just the ball seems to find him. So he helps us feel a little better about the spot, about the depth there. And then, I told the group the other day, one or two of those young corners are going to have to play. And you got some good candidates in Dante and Braylon and Christian. We moved Jonathan Penix over there. He made a big interception the other day in practice. So there's some good candidates. We got the rest of camp to figure it out, but we'll be young in our depth at that position. But I like the youth that we have. And, I kind of look at Braylon. He's like an old head in some ways. His dad played here and played the position and comes from he's really, for a high school guy, he's far along in some things that are necessary at the position. But, I think we'll get to a pretty good point. We just got to develop the heck out of a couple of those young ones, and we got to stay healthy. We can't go down a guy early. We got to stay healthy with those main three and give those other guys a chance to continue to develop, each and every week. Development, happens now, and then it's happening in week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and week 4, and you hope that by the time you got to dial them up for extended reps, it's deeper into the season.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, appreciate it, everybody. See you next time.